disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now.
With Sean Diddy Combs breaking his silence on that video of him purportedly beating his ex-girlfriend, what's next for the disgraced rapper? Let's discuss. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. So here's a big question in the Sean Diddy Combs saga. What's next? I think that's a fair question to ask after the rapper and music producer broke his silence responding to that incredibly disturbing video from last week. The video published by CNN that purportedly shows Diddy savagely beating his ex-girlfriend Casandra Ventura in 2016 at the Intercontinental Hotel in Los Angeles. The video appears to show Diddy in a towel running down the hotel hallway, confronting Casandra, or Cassie, at the elevator bank, throwing her to the ground, kicking her, dragging her, throwing a vase in her direction. It is awful to watch. And it was so bad, it was so clear that on one hand, I'm not surprised that Diddy responded because there was nowhere else for him to go if he wanted to say something about it. But there are issues with his response. So he publishes this on Instagram 2 days after CNN publishes the hotel video. This is his response. Take a listen.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. But sometimes you got to do that. I was up. I hit rock bottom. But I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy, and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
So what happens now with that response and with that video? Well, there are a number of issues. First, and arguably the most important legally for him, there is an ongoing federal investigation right now, an ongoing federal probe. Do we remember that? Remember his homes were raided by federal agents reportedly pursuant to an ongoing sex trafficking investigation? Now, we don't know a lot of details. I've been of the opinion that the reason we haven't seen any kind of charges or arrests is because they're still gathering evidence, processing what was obtained from the homes, maybe issuing subpoenas to different witnesses. But while this is going on, and there's been no statement of a resolution of this investigation, what does Diddy do? He essentially admits that that is him on tape. I spoke with criminal defense attorney and former federal prosecutor Nadia Shihata, who was on the team that helped to put R. Kelly away for his sex crimes. Here's what she said we could expect to happen now.
I don't know, as if I were his criminal defense attorney, if I would have advised him to make a statement here, because the allegations about that video in the complaint of Cassie Ventura are put in a specific context. And in the complaint, the beating is alleged to have happened on the same occasion as one of the what they call FOs or freak-ons or freak-outs.
I think freak off or something like that. Yeah,
freak off, which is essentially the sex trafficking allegations. And so now we have him admitting that that's him on the video, admitting what he essentially can't deny because it's on there. And this is powerful evidence that I'm sure federal prosecutors are looking closely at.
And I also spoke with former FBI and CIA agent Tracy Walder, whether the release of this hallway video could maybe mean that there's significant movement in the federal case, could potentially charges or arrests be on the horizon.
You know, I wondered about that when I first saw this video. Again, initial reactions, right? I'm like, are we laying a framework right now, right, for potential charges? Look, when I worked at the FBI, that's not something we engaged in, right? Like leaking videos and those kinds of things to garner public support. So I don't want to get down like that conspiracy road, but part of me does wonder a little bit if this is just to sort of lay a foundation in terms of what we're looking for in the future.
Yeah, bottom line, we just don't know. We don't know. It's clear, though, that this could be a central piece of evidence in the federal case. You have a woman who claims that she was a victim of sex trafficking, that was forced into sexual slavery, forced to perform commercial sex acts, that is being physically attacked. A woman who may be cooperating with authorities in their federal probe. Remember, this probe was launched only a few months ago, or seemingly there was movement in it only a few months ago, but it came on the heels of all of these lawsuits. So I have to imagine Ventura, maybe other plaintiffs who are suing Diddy, are cooperating with the government. I think that's a fair assessment. And while that's all going on, he essentially admits that that is him in the video. And what makes that so problematic for Combs were the denials. When the lawsuits came out, he didn't just say, no comment, or I look forward to my day in court. No, in December, after Ventura and at least 3 other women had filed lawsuits against him, Combs posted a statement on Instagram denying this, saying, quote, "Let me be absolutely clear. I did not do any of the awful things being alleged." And through his legal counsel, they have suggested that these are all lies, that these are money grabs. But now coming out and saying, no, I did this, that's a shot to his credibility. Talking about needing good legal advice, right? Well, you know where that becomes so important? Personal injury cases. If you get hurt, that is an incredibly confusing and traumatic time. It's hard to navigate that. It's a life-altering experience. But let me highlight our incredible sponsor and partner, Morgan & Morgan. This is a firm you would want in your corner because they are specialists in this area. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm, and for a reason. They win a lot. They have secured multi-million-dollar verdicts and settlements. In fact, they secured a $120 million verdict in one of the first personal injury trials post-pandemic. And by the way, in that case, there was a pretrial offer of just $20,000. Yeah, Morgan & Morgan, they don't settle for lowball offers. They fight to protect your legal rights and for what you deserve in compensation. But one of the best things about Morgan & Morgan is how easy they make this whole process for their clients, from submitting your claim to uploading documents, to signing contracts, to talking to your whole legal team. It can all be done from your smartphone. That's it. Seeing if you have a case only takes a few minutes. And by the way, there's no upfront fee. You only pay them if you win. So if you've been injured in an accident, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. You can start a claim in 8 clicks or less without even having to leave your couch. To start your claim, visit forthepeople.com/LC Sidebar or by dialing #law. That's #529 on your phone. By the way, I have to believe also he wouldn't have admitted that was him on tape if the tape wasn't as clear as it was. If it was grainy, if you couldn't tell what it was, pretty sure he would have come out and denied that too. Pretty sure he might not have even said anything about it. But in terms of him saying that he was, messed up and seemingly referring to him being high on substances, which again, an admission of which federal prosecutors, they could be looking at that too. We don't know what they found during the searches on his properties. There were allegations in the lawsuit of illegal narcotics possession. Those could be charges that the feds might be looking into. I did a sidebar on what all potential charges the feds might be looking into. So here he is admitting to a problem at that key time in 2016. At least it seems like he's admitting it. But in terms of how that admission could play into a federal case, here again is Nadia Shihata.
That may well be the case, but that's not a defense to this type of crime. I mean, you can't, even if your excuse is you were on drugs and acting erratically, that's not going to be a legal defense to using coercion or force to get someone to engage in sex trafficking. So certainly it's an explanation, a PR explanation, and maybe it would have some appeal to a jury even, but it's not going to be a legal defense to these types of charges. but it certainly may have played a factor. I will say, looking at the video, one thing that certainly stands out is it doesn't appear to be something that this is like the first time it ever happened, right? This is how he's acting when he presumably knows he's on video, that there's surveillance cameras in a hotel by the elevators and in the hallways, and this is how he's acting. So if I'm the prosecutor, I think this really substantiates what they're probably hearing from Miss Ventura and perhaps other potential victim witnesses. And that's powerful evidence. There's honestly, I can't think of more powerful evidence than video evidence of this type coming to light.
Now, let's be clear. While all of this might be used by the feds in a potential federal case, what seems to be closed at this point is any chance that Diddy be prosecuted in California on state criminal charges. Because, and this was the statement from the LA County District Attorney's Office, they wrote, quote, "We are aware of the video that has been circulating online, allegedly depicting Sean Combs assaulting a young woman in Los Angeles." It goes on to state, "We find the images extremely disturbing and difficult to watch. If the conduct depicted occurred in 2016, unfortunately, we would be unable to charge, as the conduct would have occurred beyond the timeline where a crime of assault can be prosecuted." Let's talk about the statute of limitations. And that's because in California, felony assault is 3 years. And we have statute of limitations for a number of reasons. Unless you're dealing with a murder case where there's no statute of limitations, you can always be prosecuted for that. Sometimes crimes, you want people to move on. You don't want them to always have to look over their shoulder that they'll be prosecuted for it. It's also difficult sometimes to prove a felony case versus a murder case. Memories fade. Witnesses pass away. You can't just be able to prosecute somebody for assault 8 years, 10 years, 20 years later. There's a reason for it. I know it's frustrating, but it is in the law for a reason. I did do a bit of research into whether, if the allegations are true, that Diddy purchased the footage from the Intercontinental Hotel for $50,000. That's what Casandra Ventura alleged in her lawsuit, that he purchased the footage for $50,000. Could that be considered a crime of concealing evidence under California law? Yes, possibly, but it's my understanding that's a misdemeanor. Also has a 1-year statute of limitations. It might fit into kind of other categories of hindering a prosecution or obstruction. But again, I don't see that really playing out. I think you're still running up into a statute of limitations issue. So it seems unlikely that he would be prosecuted specifically for this event. By the way, I believe why Diddy decided to release this statement after the DA came out with that statement. I'm sure his attorneys told him, too, about the statute of limitations, that he can't be prosecuted for assault in California. So he admits it's him when he knows he won't be prosecuted. Seems to be the case. But again, does he not think about the ongoing federal case? Anyway, it was interesting because this is what the DA's office said next. They also said, as of today, law enforcement has not presented a case related to the attack depicted in the video against Mr. Combs. But we encourage anyone who has been a victim or witness to a crime to report it to law enforcement or reach out to our office for support from our Bureau of Victim Services. So in other words, as we have seen in other high-profile cases where you're dealing with high-profile individuals, things like this, events like this, recordings, tapes, text messages, this could encourage other people to come forward with their own accounts. They could decide to feel emboldened to come forward to law enforcement or prosecutors, perhaps with more recent conduct. But we just don't know. And to be clear, Diddy hasn't been criminally charged. He hasn't been prosecuted. He hasn't been arrested in connection with any of these allegations. He hasn't been found liable in a court of law. So at this point, these are all allegations, and a lot of this, sure, is pure speculation. But what else could happen? Well, I think from a legal point of view, this can certainly affect Diddy's other legal cases. Remember, as I said, he's being sued by multiple people on allegations of sex trafficking and sexual abuse. And while he has been fighting these cases through legal motions, through court filings, which, as we discussed on Sidebar, actually have legal strength, there's a chance that he could get certain claims dismissed. Will he decide at this point to just settle these cases after all this? Well, of course, this video doesn't confirm the authenticity of all of the allegations against him. He may feel it's in his best interest to just settle the cases, end them, because this tape could maybe be used against him at a future trial. It gives strength to the other claims, and perhaps he's concerned about what else could come out during the course of these litigations. Gotta believe that's one of the reasons he wanted to settle with Casandra Ventura as soon as possible. Probably didn't want that tape to get out. They settled the day after her lawsuit. Was it because he didn't want that tape to come out or anything else to come out? That's one of the reasons people don't go to court. That's one of the reasons people don't end up actually taking it to trial or having this proceed forward through discovery. They don't want all this coming out. He didn't want this tape to come out. So I think that there is a strong argument that he would want to make these cases go away, settle them, and then remain silent about the settlements. I can't imagine he would say, now, I'm completely innocent, because something else could come out in the future. Which, by the way, brings me to another effect of all of this and what we can expect. Diddy's image. I believe there is a strong argument that he may never recover publicly from this tape. That's how bad and inexcusable it is. But what adds to it once again are the denials at first, that he was innocent, that he didn't do anything, that these are all lies. That seriously hurts his credibility, especially if he takes the stand, either at a future criminal trial or any of these lawsuits. He'll be presented. You first said these were all lies, and now you're on tape admitting that was you beating Casandra Ventura. How should this jury believe anything you have to say? Now, after the lawsuits were launched and the raids were conducted, we already saw a blowback against Sean Diddy Combs. His image tarnished. Not only were people distancing themselves from Diddy, but what else happened? He sold all of his shares in Revolt TV. There were companies that broke ties with his e-commerce website, Empower Global. Hulu canceled production on a reality show that was going to feature Combs. His management company reportedly dropped him. And now, after this video, whatever business interests or deals he currently has have to be in serious jeopardy. And number two, he will potentially have a lot of trouble doing business in the future. And many times we see morals clauses in entertainment contracts, which, as you can imagine, will be complicated by all of this. Morals clauses are a way that people get out of contracts with celebrities and entertainers and presenters. And the blowback from people online has been intense. Sure, there have been people who have come to Diddy's support online, even after that video, after his apology. But there's a hashtag no Diddy. We've seen that on X. Celebrities have spoken out. 50 Cent, Diddy's rival. You want to talk about a response? On X, he wrote, "This is not going to work. Who is advising him right now? SMH bad move." That was in reaction to the Diddy apology video. Emily Ratajkowski wrote "monster" on X. Singer Aubrey O'Day, who had worked with Diddy in the past on Making the Band, reacted to that video from 2016, writing, quote, "The picture is getting a lot clearer to you all, I can imagine. Abuse survivors or anyone that triggers easily might not want to watch." And then she did a hashtag Cassie, hashtag Diddy, hashtag Kim Porter. That's Diddy's ex who died. Prayers up for all his victims. Barstool Sports founder Dave Portnoy also wrote on X, "Throw Diddy in jail, throw away the key to whoever had this video and kept their mouth shut. I mean, holy F." We'll talk about that in a second, actually. And by the way, we just learned that New York Mayor Eric Adams may now rescind Diddy's key to the city that he was presented with last year. He spoke to Pix 11.
The committee and the team, we've never rescinded a key before, but we are now sitting down to see what the next steps forward are going to be.
And there's something else that I want to highlight as we talk about what could happen next. And it was kind of mentioned a little bit by Dave Portnoy, indirectly. I'm not sure if he was mentioning this, but this is what came to my mind. The hotel. The Intercontinental Hotel. I do wonder if they could face any kind of legal liability for allegedly agreeing to hand over the footage to Diddy. Cassie, again, alleged that Diddy paid $50,000 for the footage. It's an allegation. We don't know for sure. Haven't seen the footage since 2024, since all this came out. And so I don't really know how the footage was released, if he did purchase it and own it. But I do believe if there was an ongoing lawsuit between him and Ventura, and he did have that footage, he would have had to turn that over during the course of litigation. but thinking about whether the hotel plays any role in this, not really on a criminal front, but on a civil front. If Ventura would want to sue the Intercontinental Hotel for something as, emotional distress, I'm not sure if she would have a claim. I'm not sure if it would be time barred, but I think it was interesting to think about their role in this, giving videotape over to him, video of an alleged crime. That's problematic for the Intercontinental Hotel on a possible legal and a PR front. Now, Tracy Walder, who I mentioned before, I was talking to her, and she didn't cast any kind of aspersions on the hotel. But when I was talking to her, she raised an interesting insight about this.
But this was something that was clearly caught on hotel security camera, right? We see it now. I am assuming this was a very loud, raucous event that occurred, as you mentioned, in broad daylight. It seems like it's AM to me, but again, that's just what I'm garnering from the video. And I am very surprised that hotel security wasn't up there, especially because you have that added layer of Diddy being one of your guests at the hotel. And so there's a higher degree of security that typically comes with that, just in terms of security protocols. And so that would have been in place as well. And so I am not shaming the hotel or shaming bystanders, but I am very surprised that we didn't see a security official on that video.
So look, we will wait and see what happens next, but this is clearly a chilling, disgusting, and impactful new update in the Sean Diddy Combs saga. That's all we have for you here on Sidebar, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.